Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for coming to DMLab London. My name is Megan, and I am the DMLab National Coordinator and going to be hosting tonight. Thank you all for coming down to Richmix, and welcome to everyone joining us on the online stream. There will be chances for Q&As after each talk, so we really encourage people in the room, but also people online, please leave comments and questions on the stream, and we'll make sure presenters get them. I am a reasonably tall white woman with long brown hair, and I'm wearing jeans and a jumper. And I'm really excited to see everyone here. We are Drake Music, and we work on the principle of the social model of disability, which tells us that people are disabled by barriers within society and that we can help accessibility by alleviating those barriers. I wanted to take this opportunity to let everyone know that DMLab London is now expanding across the country, and we will have hubs here in London, Manchester, Gloucester, Colchester, Bristol and Hull. So please do keep an eye out if you are local to those areas or can get to those areas. Please keep an eye out for news from those hubs. In terms of accessibility for tonight, we have our amazing BSL interpreters, Petra and Grace, and we also have our captioner, Max, who's live captioning the event. We do have a quiet space downstairs. If you need it, just let a member of staff know. And if there is a fire evacuation, just follow the signs behind you outside, and a member of Richmix will take you down. We will have 3 presentations, and we'll have 2, then a break, and then we'll have a live performance. And in the break, we'd really love to invite you to test out some accessible musical instruments, including some being brought all the way from Sydney, Australia by Nick Wishart. And they're amazing. I was having a go before we started, and they're really, really cool. So please do go and try them out. I'd like to thank our funders, the City Bridge Foundation and Arts Council England. And I think that's everything from me for now. I'd love to introduce, if I can get the right page. I'm happy to introduce our first speaker, Stuart Grimshaw. Stuart began his career as a professional musician, working in theatres and musicals, playing in several bands in the UK, and involved in the experimental jazz and electronics music scene in Germany. Stuart holds 2 degrees in music composition and music performance and education from the Conservatoire of the Arts, Arnhem, and led his own orchestra for 2 years. After moving to New Zealand, he combined his musical background with technology, authoring 2 books on Apple development. Now based in the UK, Stuart founded creative technology company Headsoup, where he focuses on inclusive music tools. His latest project, Lift Music, is a gesture-based app designed for people with cognitive impairments and limited mobility, bringing a unique perspective that bridges technical innovation, creativity, and accessible music. So please join me in welcoming Stuart Grimshaw.
I didn't write that intro that Megan just said. I think that's about 2/3 of what I was going to say this evening, so I'll play. There's an app. Rob, if we can put the iPad on the screen. If you're an iOS person, you can download it. It's free if you want. That's not going to be there for very long because I need the iPad to do something else. I wrote a piece of software. I'll stand up because it feels funny sitting down. I feel like a newsreader. I wrote a piece of software over the last few years. And back in the last year, I had a serendipitous conversation with 2 wonderful ladies, Melissa Jo and Rebecca, who were working with dementia patients. We were talking about what they did, and then I started talking about what I was doing. And one idea led to another, and then we threw together a prototype, and we're still going. So this started at the beginning of this year, with the software already kind of like, half written. The idea of the software is that it will make music for you, but you direct it. You're the film director, and the app is your composer. You don't need to play an instrument in the same way that a film director doesn't have to be able to play or compose music. I'll show you a bit of what it does and tell you a little bit about it. I'll start off with some music, for which I have to sit down. So the reason I'm sat in front of the iPad is the iPad's got a camera, which you'll see in a moment. And the app follows, it includes motion capture. So as long as the app can see my hands and my elbows and my wrists, I'll just get into the position right. I can control the music with just gestures. So I'll play a little bit so you hear it before I start talking about it. Can you see the? Yeah, you can. All right. So we'll start off with the one that's lit up now. It's the green music. It's the green style. I haven't attempted to give the styles names. So basically, if my hands and my arms and my body is sort of not doing very much, neither will the music. And the more I do, and the more animated I become, the more animated the music becomes. So let's do it, and then you'll see. Now I won't do anything for a bit. And if I continue not moving, the music will continue doing that. However, basically how it works. Oh, thank you. Yeah. So what's the point of that? So we've been working with people with cognitive impairments of various natures. What we want to do is enable people to make music who can't play, who haven't learned instruments, can't play instruments. There might be physical reasons, there might be cognitive ones for that. My reason as a kid that I couldn't play anything was my parents didn't want any noise in the house. So I was 16 before I picked up an instrument. I grew up with what's called autism spectrum disorder, which I think, I don't like the disorder bit of that word, and Tourette's syndrome, which meant I had quite an interesting childhood in terms of communication and behavioural issues. And as I discovered music at 16, well, I didn't discover music at 16, but as I started playing music, it really, it gave me a voice. It gave me something that I was in charge of, something that I could control. And I never stopped doing it. I became a full-time musician. So that's a big deal for me. It's a real, I think it's important to give people that channel. It's not for everybody. But we've been working with particularly children in SEND schools with varying degrees of autism. And it's a brilliant thing to watch kids who have never made music before in their lives sit there and discover that through moving they can direct music, they can improvise. And we know that improvisation does great things in the cognitive space. It really gets your brain working hard across all regions of the brain. Well, not all regions, but several, a lot of regions of the brain. It's very good cognitive exercise. Improvisation is even better than playing music. Playing music is even better than listening to it. But of course, to improvise, you need to be able to play. So the idea here is you can improvise without having to have spent 20 years learning a saxophone or a piano. We've also found we've been working with people with dementia, and again, you just can't miss it when you're watching people doing this stuff. It's fabulous. Funny enough, those who participate least in some of the dementia groups we've been working with, those who are least able to communicate and socialise now, are those who have engaged most with this way of making music. It's been fabulous to watch someone who's just not moving and not speaking at all get lost in this world of music and moving their arms sometimes higher than they've moved them for years and years and years. We've heard this now. I mean, we're starting to get used to this. It was a really big thing the first time I heard it, when carers were saying, my God, she hasn't put her arms that high for a long, long time. There's something about music that sort of, it bypasses all sorts of stuff. Your language centres, your inhibitory centres. Brains that have forgotten, or brains that have started to believe that they can't move a hand higher than that. When you're controlling music, the brain just forgets that, and you want more violins, you want more energy, the hands just keep going up, keep going up, keep going up. And it's a brilliant thing to watch. It's really good. So it feels like it's something really worth doing. I'll give you another little taste of it now. This does different styles. The green style you heard just now is popular with a lot of people because it's quite calm. It's not too much hard work. Some people, especially the kids, like a bit more. This one's yellow. I happen to know that it's also a bit more orchestral, but the app is primarily non-lingual. I'm not trying to, nor do I want to use musical terms and musical styles and stuff like that. It's just the yellow stuff has all got something in common. The green stuff, they've all got something in common. So this is the green. This is one of the green starting points. So let me show you. Each one of these, we call them presets, but of course the music's different every time because you're building it yourself. But you've got different starting points. So let's go with this one. Again, I'll start my hands down the bottom. on forever, it never stops. Thanks. Yes, why does it work the way it does? The reasoning behind it is, if you give someone the ability just to control a scale of notes with motion, then all you get is ding, 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 ding. Well, that's the same as giving someone a keyboard who doesn't play an instrument. It's easy enough to play the scale up and down. If you just give people a way of making triggering notes in a scale, they have to know what to do with the scale to make music. And that's what jazz musicians do. That's what improvising musicians do. But it's not something we're born with. It's not something most people can do. It's not even something most musicians can do. And some of the feedback, or not feedback, but some of the conversations we've had with SEND schools and music therapists, is there are devices there that they're great for about 5 minutes. And then you run out of things to do with it. You're limited by your ability to play that instrument. You'll know that everyone here will know the theremin, because we've had one here over the last few months, where you're driving the pitch with your hand, but it's the hardest thing in the world to play. It's easy to get a noise out of, but it's a hard thing to play. The idea behind this software, and this app is called Lift, although the software behind it is something else, but the app is called Lift. And the idea here is that we're giving people a way to channel complex music that sounds like the music you hear when you're watching a film, the music that sounds like the music you hear when you're playing a game, when you're listening to a band, that kind of stuff. And I'm reasonably convinced that is a cognitively more stimulating environment to have people improvising in. So that's why this works the way it does. It does the composing for you in a sense, but you're directing where it goes emotionally. There's nothing you can do to stop it. If you stop moving, it will still carry on going. For the simple reason that if we add a stop option, people think they've broken it, and they go, oh, which is not what we want. What we want is just a really relaxed, enjoyable activity that sort of can't go wrong. So the promise of what the software promises you as a user is it will make reasonable sounding music as long as you keep on engaging with it. How long have I got? Oh, not doing too bad. I'll give you one more piece of music. I'll do a little improvisation, and then we'll swap the gadgets, and we'll see some videos of people using it very well. So I'll do one more. Let's do the red one. I'm working with a large number of children in a SEND school. Ever such a lot of them want just the louder and faster and the busier the better. That's what the red ones are for. Originally there was only one red one, but the red ones were most popular. Now there's so many red ones. Before I do that, we don't assume that everyone's got two arms or the use of any arms at all. So there's a thing in here called a gesture matrix, where you can map the emotional content to whichever mobility resources you have. So very early on, a lady that I'm going to introduce you to in a moment, she's quadriplegic and has only got the use of one arm. Our very first session with a group of brain injury people in Kent. We were doing great. Everyone's having a go at the software. And Kat, God bless her, says, "This is great. I love it. I really love it. But I've only got the one arm. The other one couldn't move." So a week later, we went back and we changed that, and we've built on that. So you can steer the software with anything at all. I mean, we're reading off a camera at the moment, and it's reacting to my arms, my wrists, my elbows, my hands. There's nothing stopping you doing that with just legs, for example, or one arm, one leg. And we're working at the moment to do some control with just facial muscles, with just facial expressions. That's quite hard, but we've been chatting to people, especially around Parkinson's disease and cerebral palsy, where in the end you might end up with really, really a very focused set of movements as your resources. So there's nothing. As long as you can move in some way, you can communicate with the software. However, I'll keep going with what I've got. I've got to admit, I could introduce you to a whole bunch of 5, 6, 7-year-olds who can do that a lot better than I can. So I'm just going to switch cables, and all of the people that you'll see appearing in a second. Hey. You're hearing the music by this guy. And we do have permission to use all of these. All of these people are now. Go on, good friends. The music stopped. Oh, there it is. He's using the software for the second time. This is his second session. And he's really mapped it up. He's really worked out what does what where. I mentioned earlier. And Cat can to work out ways to improvise with the software using only one hand, drawing the space. And this guy is Anthony. Anthony is a particle physicist. He's a really, really smart guy. And you can tell, he mapped out every single individual pixel in that space. He gets remarkable results. stop it there. I won't stop it there, that's a weird place to stop. There you go. Yeah, the app is called Lift. There's a free version in the App Store. We don't have it for Android yet, unfortunately, because we haven't got an Android developer. I do iOS. We're working on Android. We have started actually working with someone, putting that together, but these things take time. And yeah, I mean, if you've got any questions, I'll be happy to answer them. And thanks for listening.
Thank you so much, Stuart. That was amazing. Do we have any questions in the room, or do we have any questions on YouTube? I'll give everyone a bit of time to think, because I have questions as well. We've seen some amazing performances, and they're all solo performances, and there's quite like a lot of instruments and sounds going on, which I imagine lends itself to being more of a solo instrument. But have you thought about what might happen if multiple people were playing this?
Yeah, I'd love to find the time to do that. That comes up quite a lot. Could we do a group version? We can. The limits are really the motion recognition, but the current state is that the motion capture can recognise at least 4 or 5 different people doing different things. So there'd be absolutely no reason why you couldn't then map those 4 or 5 different people to, one person's the strings, one person is the woodwinds, one person is the brass. That would be quite easy to do. I say easy, relatively, it's certainly doable. I'd love to do it. It's been quite a busy year. We've got quite a long to-do list, but that's a really popular question that comes up. So, yeah, I would hope maybe by the end of the year we'll have that going. We've just released a couple of versions in the App Store, and that's a really busy time, because as soon as you release something, thousands of people can break it, so you have to fix things really quick. But hopefully by the end of the year we'll have a multi-user version up and running.
Amazing. Do you have any questions? Gio?
Hi, thank you for demoing us the Lift app. I was wondering if you have any plans for expanding into other genres as well, although the red one did seem to be like more electronic. So at the moment it's mostly orchestra focused. And what genres would you look into expanding if you considered that?
I'd like to get a bit arty, to be honest. I'd quite like to do some stuff that is the kind of music that I made as a musician, which was a bit experimental. I'd like to be doing that. The 3 genres that I covered aren't all that's in there. There are others. Again, it's time. The more time we've got, the more we can add to those. I'd like to be doing that. We get some requests. A lot of people say jazz. We could do sort of jazzy stuff. That'd be no problem. All of these things, they're just a matter of time. We've got one programmer, unfortunately. I mean, we could use half a dozen. That'd be quite nice. Working on it, but at the moment, that's the sort of the limiter. So I'd very much like to be doing some more out there, edgy music.
Thank you, Alice.
Thanks very much. Yeah, amazing, absolutely amazing, Stuart. I love the idea of the therapeutic value of it, that you're helping people do more movement. And I would hope there was more funding perhaps with organisations for that. But my question just relates back to that last one. As a musician, would you ever think of opening up the possibility of people composing for it? So you would just say, this is how many threads we need or stems and that type of thing, so they could feed you a package of minimalism or something.
Yeah, totally. It was written from the beginning onwards for that, to be able to do that. It's not the easiest thing in the world to
No.
write. It's not stems. You're writing sort of pieces of music Lego that will fit together, and
Yeah.
that can be turned up and can be played backwards and still sound good. Can be turned upside down and still play good. Can be chopped in half and still sound good. So it's not a question of recording a few stems. But I'd love to do that. That would be so cool to release. We've got a guy in Germany, a composer, a theatre composer. He's been working. I've been working. Well, I knew him from my time in Germany. I've been working with him, and he sees this as a performance device, where you're not composing for it, but you're improvising the actual chords. So with some musical knowledge, you could be putting in the harmonies as you go, and have that as another live input.
Yeah.
So I'd love to do that. That'd be really good. I'd love an excuse to do that. If there's anyone there who says, "Hey, I can write this, I can do this," then we can sit down and work out exactly what that looks like.
Yeah.
That would be a fun part of the project to do, and it'd be nice to expand it beyond. At the moment, it's just me, just by virtue of the fact that I haven't got a big bank of composers at my side working. But there's no reason why it should stay that way, and that would be lovely. That'd be really nice for people to use it.
I think you'd get a lot of people who'd want to do it.
As their own vehicle,
yeah. Brilliant.
Thank you. Do we have any more questions?
Thank you. So we got a question online. How many sounds are there to choose from on the current version, and can you record your music in the app?
You can. We're not seeing it anymore. When you can record the music, when you press the stop button, it renders what you've just done, and you can then export that until you press the play button again, and then you've wiped it. So you have to export it after you've played it. But yeah, you can do that. How many sounds are there? Oh Christ, no idea. More than 200, less than 300, somewhere in that range. The sounds, not all of them are connected up. They're just again, it's time. It's just time. With more time, we could create other ensembles. But as it is, there's a level of the app, a sort of a deep dive button. If you hit it, where you can go in, you can change any instrument to anything else. So if you think an ensemble sounds quite nice, but you don't like the strings, you'd rather be listening to a synthesizer, you can change just that one. You can do that. So to answer the question, it's something like 300 sounds.
Great, thank you.
Thank you so much. We do have time for one more quick question, if anybody has another question. Yes, over at the end here.
Stuart, I was just wondering, is there any left to right kind of movement, and possibly fingers?
Yeah, there is, both. So the left, right, I don't know if you saw across my hands sometimes, you can swap, if let's say, take the electronic one, if you've got, a pad doing one melody and some kind of sort of lead sound doing another. If you swap the hands, they can swap parts. So you've still got the same, it works quite well with the orchestral one. So if you do that, the woodwinds and the strings swap, which is a cheap device to get more out of your composition, but if it's good enough for Beethoven, it's good enough for me. Just do the same thing, just swap the instruments around. That works. Yeah. What's the other thing? Oh, the fingers. Yes, we do pick up the fingers. The stuff that I've showed you today, there's not much going on with the fingers. There are other styles where that are a lot sparser, where you've got more room for more signals to the software. We've got literally hundreds of parameters. That's much more than anyone can really work out, even me, and I'm doing this every day, all day. But yeah, there's about a dozen or a dozen and a half parameters there, and one of them is this, and one of them is that. There's a couple of gestures. I don't know where this comes from, but so many kids do this. It must be a TikTok thing. But I see it all the time. They're doing this, and then they try that out. And at first it did nothing, but I saw that so often. So now there's a gesture recognizer in there that's looking for this butterfly, and then you get a butterfly thing. And this, you can imagine the kind of music effect that you'd expect doing this. You know, you're getting trills and and that kind of thing. People react. It's quite interesting to watch how differently people engage with it. Some people are sort of big, bold movements, like Oliver, that the whole time it's like he's up here and down here, with a few smaller ones that are walking up and down the arm thing. Some people are massaging the music. It's like they've got a big sponge in their hands, and they'll bring it down really slowly with incredible patience. It'll take them 3 minutes to go from there to there, and it's all in the fingers. And I think one thing, again, time. One thing that I'm really keen on adding is making use of all of those things. Sometimes I'm watching people using the app, and they're doing something, and you can see the expressive content, the emotional intent, and that's what this interface is all about. It's the emotional intent rather than scales or harmonies. People are doing things, and they're doing this, and you know what they're after, but I just haven't thought of that gesture before. So there's lots and lots of stuff that I've noted down over the last 9 months, and at some point I'll get down to doing some of it. But yeah, it's fascinating to get into the really small detail, and especially some of the kids at the academy where we've been working. Kids are really good at working stuff out. And some of them have gone into such an incredible amount of detail in the space. And you can just tell we could give them another 20 things to do with fingers, with thumbs, with gestures, and they'd be able to integrate that sort of purposefully in an expressive way. So it's a great opportunity. There's lots and lots and lots of ground to be covered yet.
Amazing, thank you so much. Another round of applause for Stuart Grimshaw from Headsoup. Thank you, Stuart. Bit of a behind-the-scenes moment here. Alice, can I ask you to put your mic on? So while Alice does that, I would love to introduce our next speaker. Alice Gilmour has spent her career working in the arts as a musician, post-production sound engineer, and in community engagement. More recently, she has focused on making the arts more accessible. She hosts a podcast, Making the Arts More Accessible, and works primarily as an audio describer for opera and theatre, as well as a captioner and sound designer. She'll be sharing what she's learned from the latest technologies to the organisations doing great things and those that could be doing more. She's also keen to have a Q&A to hear about people's own experiences and find out where there's room to improve. So please do, online and in the room, think of anything you'd like to add, anything you'd like to ask, and please join me in welcoming Alice Gilmour.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Megan. Is this working? Oh, hello. Great. Let me just bring up my presentation. Apologies. There's no emails up there. Tech failure. There, fine. Great. Yeah. Sorry. Thanks very much for having me. Thank you for introducing me, Megan, and thank you to Stuart. What an amazing thing to see. I'm absolutely blown away by that. I'm sorry, mine's a lot more wordy. There's no great demos of exciting kit. I'm really sorry about that. But my speciality is in helping to make the arts accessible, as Megan was saying. So yes, sorry, just to self-describe, I'm a white woman in my 50s, pronouns she, her. I've got curly grey hair, I'm wearing glasses, and some pink cords, flares, which I'm rather proud of. So yes, I am here to talk to you about what accessibility looks like in the arts, what's currently going on, and what are the good things coming down the line. But I want to leave plenty of time at the end to get feedback from people. I'm sure people in the room might access some of those services themselves, and I really want to find out more about people's experiences, I guess. So this screen is just saying it's my journey into accessibility. There's a picture of me there looking a bit techie. I've got a head-mounted mic and a desk with faders and a score, and that's me audio describing from a little pokey room in Leeds Grand Theatre. Basically, I'm saying on this slide, not allowing someone to enjoy a publicly available artistic experience is just plain wrong. And it's when you come up against that I think it just ignites that fire in you. I was very fortunate to grow up playing an instrument from an early age, played the violin, very middle-class, arty family, music teacher mum, and we all trooped off to the opera and the theatre and everything. And of course, I hated it mostly when I was really young, but I had access to it, and then I grew to love it and absolutely value it, and I've worked in it all my life. And I think, you know, when you come across people who haven't the confidence to go into the theatre or step through the door, or the theatre isn't accessible to them in some kind of way, it makes me feel upset that they can't access amazing experiences that we all can easily. So I've worked in playing and at sound engineering and all sorts of things. But then I worked in community engagement, where again, it was all about breaking down those barriers, bringing people through the door, making it a warm and welcoming experience if they were new to it. But in that time, I also particularly came across people who had physical disabilities, particularly blind, visually impaired groups and deaf and hard of hearing. And I was also responsible for booking those service providers. So I was booking audio describers, booking BSL interpreters, like we have Grace and Petra, is it? Yeah, you're doing such a great job today. I'm sorry if I'm speaking too fast. And so I remember one particular experience where we did a touch tour in Nottingham, and someone else was doing the audio describing, but Tom Maley, who came to that, he's an opera lover all his life, blind all his life. He's been a musician, a music teacher, adores opera. And he said, "Oh, Alice, I know that you're doing Aida next season. Is it going to be audio described?" And I said, "I'm really sorry, it's not going to be audio described. I think the money has gone on LabOM." And he said, "Is it sung in English?" And I said, "No, it's in Italian." And his face just fell. And, you know, he's an older man. And I just think, you know, how many more times might he get to see Aida, his favourite opera, and yet this one was inaccessible to him? And it made me think we have to do more. And at this stage, I was already trained as an audio describer. So I thought, I'm just going to do some behind-the-scenes experiments. I checked out the show reports for opera and realized that actually per act, they nearly always came in within about 30 seconds to a minute, timing-wise, even though it's live and conducted. People keep to the very same speeds. So I thought, why don't I just record the audio description? And I hosted 2 huge files on a SharePoint site, and I gave them the login, and they logged in on an iPhone. Luckily, Tom had his partner Caroline doing this for him, because obviously iPhones and screens and everything are quite inaccessible to manage by yourself in a theatre. Normally, an audio description headset would have nice, easy to find buttons and volume controls. Anyway, they did it. It worked amazingly. They loved it. So I just kept thinking, surely you can pre-record lots of things and just have them triggered, either linking them to the surtitles or, you know, making it easy so the user doesn't have to operate it. And that was really my foray into pushing the boundaries. And so that's why I'm always doing that. I'm always trying to talk at events. Every time I talk somewhere, I meet someone and I learn something new, and they, you know, challenge me to find out more what organizations can do. So next screen. There's a picture in this screen of somebody holding up a phone with some surtitles on it, and behind them are what seems to be a couple of actors doing an outdoor production, and that's just illustrating that you can get captions to your phone these days, and it's not unaffordable. That's the great thing, the technology is getting more reasonable all the time. So in this screen, I'm just quickly listing what is available. I'm sure many people know this, but if anyone doesn't, currently in most theatres all around the country, for opera, musicals, theatre, you will have audio described performances, whether that's you picking up a headset or using an app on a phone. Theatres nearly always provide these, but it might only be one show. So one show on that whole run, and if you can't make the date, tough. with those audio described performances, there's very often a touch tour beforehand where the audience for the audio description are invited onto the stage to feel the props, the costumes, the scenery, etc., and get a real sense of the dimensions of things and the textures. Next thing on my list is captions, surtitles. It's fairly self-explanatory, like we've got these great live captions here. These are great because they're kind of in the center. Your eye doesn't have to go very far. But in some theatres, they're right at the sides. So, you know, there's inaccessibility with those sometimes. You can also get them to your phones. And then there are companies like Grey Eye who do very beautiful things with them and make them much more creative and beautiful to look at. Then we've got BSL interpretation, as shown tonight, which is wonderful. Live. Often in theatre, they might be at the side of the stage, brightly lit, but possibly just wearing black. But a more integrated way of doing it, some theatres now incorporate them more into the show. They might be wearing a costume, and I bet they like that. Do you like that? Yeah. And it just makes it feel more coherent and more of a piece. And you can do it via screen as well, which they're doing here today, which is great. So that goes out on the live stream. And then these last two, we've got relaxed performances, which I have a bit of a problem with that, because really all performances should be relaxed. But these can be really useful for people who find the normal theatre environment tricky, as in it's completely silent, the lights go completely black. That can be unnerving. So relaxed performances tend to have the lights kept on a little bit. Lighting cues and sound cues might be slightly subdued, so they're not too startling. Obviously, there's no problem at all for spontaneous noise or someone leaving, needing to go to the loo, etc. But you have to be very careful as theatres to make sure that you're doing your messaging correctly. So, for instance, this is something we got wrong at Opera North. We were doing our first relaxed chamber concert in the Howard Assembly Room, which is a smaller chamber venue. And for some reason, the marketing department took it upon themselves to go on and on about the seating. There were going to be lots of bean bags, and you come and listen to Mozart in an afternoon and sit on a bean bag. So I think people thought it was going to be relaxing. And then they came along, and there were a couple of families who'd brought smallish children, and they were running around a bit. I think one of the children was slightly autistic. He was running up to the musicians. They didn't mind at all. They enjoyed it. There was a really nice sort of atmosphere in the room. But I could also see some people kind of looking at the kids as if, oh, they should be sitting down. And we got some complaints afterwards, which was a real shame. And I felt very sorry for the families of the kids, because they'd come to a relaxed performance, but the messaging had been wrong. We'd implied it was relaxing. But relaxed means you've relaxed the unwritten rules of theatre etiquette. That's what relaxed means. Anyway, sorry, I'm kind of waffling. And then my last one on my list is dementia-friendly performances, similar to relaxed. It's where you basically, you might have a nice warm welcome from the stage. You might have sent out to your audience a visual story beforehand. It's all about finding your audience as well. It's signposting them to that specific show. Again, spontaneous noise, clapping. I remember when we did a dementia-friendly Carmen, it was amazing just sitting in the opera house and clapping along to the tunes from Carmen, because you can't normally do that, and they're so kind of, rhythmic. So that's really what currently happens. And my next screen is called Pushing the Boundaries, and it shows a bit more of an integrated BSL interpreter involved in the Magic Flute, which Opera North did recently. It's Craig painting, and he's next to Papageno, a character in the Magic Flute. Craig is dressed all in red, and there were two BSL interpreters incorporated into the production, a man and a woman, dressed in the clothing of the men and the women. The whole opera is all about the masculine versus the feminine. You've got Sarastro versus Queen of the Night. So they sort of took it in turns. When all the men were on the stage and Sarastro, Craig would be doing the signing. And it just worked really well. It was integrated in the piece. The feedback was great from it. So that's, you know, one way in which people are pushing ahead. I've listed as well some things, particularly from Leeds Playhouse. Obviously, it's near where I live, so I know there are great things going on in London. But Leeds Playhouse have been really pushing the boundaries, and mainly this one director, Amy Leach, who's done lots of work with Grey Eye and Ramps on the Moon productions. And one of the first things she did a while ago was that some of the actors in a production of Road, when they weren't on the stage, they would go into this phone booth and voice the audio description into a phone. And it worked really well. And then most of the actors that did that have gone on to create a company called Hear the Picture. And they describe in character. So they create a character that fits in with the world of the show. They'll even do the touch tour in character. And they did a play recently in Sheffield that was all about a perfume factory or something. They even had some perfumes on the touch tour. So there's this whole immersive experience that they're creating. And they're part of the rehearsal room process as well. So they really get to know the show. They're in contact a lot with the creative team. It's a good all-round idea. More things Leeds Playhouse did. Macbeth, BSL interpreter, was one of the witches. Another thing they did in Macbeth was the sound design was acutely aware of making sure that if you couldn't see, you could hear just by this sort of underscore, which you knew which location you were in. They were very clearly differentiated. You also had things like audio signatures. One character had some heavy keys that jangled every time he came on the stage. But you also have to make sure you tell your audience this, your visually impaired audience, before they come so they know what these cues mean. Once they know them, though, you know, so they didn't have any additional audio description for that show. It was just, it was very clear. And the feedback from everybody in the audience that it was really clear. It was really easy to follow for people who might find Shakespeare tricky. Another one, again, Leeds Playhouse, Lord of the Flies, they pre-recorded the audio description, so it was voiced by children, so they used their, you know, relationships with the children who come into for the theatre clubs there, and they were describing the new scene from the perspective of being the children in the jungle, which is actually in the Lord of the Flies book. And so it was pre-recorded, it was in QLab, so it was operated by the sound team on the show, so it was there on every performance. If you needed the audio description, you just grabbed a headset, put it on, and there were only little bits of it because the play was in English and they were mic'd up. It was quite clear. So that's a very light touch way of doing it that fits in the world of the show. And one final thing on that screen, surtitles to Braille readers. This is something that Sydney Opera have just developed. So your surtitle screens or your captions, if you can simply make that one link to a Braille reader, somebody who reads Braille can now go to any caption performance, any opera with surtitles, and know what's going on. So these are all things that it's about trying to build accessibility into the creative process. So it's much more of a piece, and it's not this kind of add-on at the end where someone like me comes in and very quickly has to learn the show, and you do your prep and you do all your work, but I know for sure when I've done a tour, the fourth time I'm audio describing a show is a lot better than the first time, and that's just a given. So if it could start earlier in the process, it would be better for everyone. And then just a tiny bit about my specific area where I'm into this recording of the AD, and then it's available on every show. We've done this at the Royal Opera now last year, and this year I'm doing 3 more for them. And we record me doing it one time, and then I chop up that audio and we link it to the surtitles. So I'll mark in the score where that clip of audio needs to go. And the feedback was brilliant because obviously I can actually work with those audio cues. If it's not great, I can re-record it. If it's too loud, I'll just notch it down. So you can make it the best it can possibly be. And the feedback from the groups was it was wonderful. They didn't know I wasn't doing it live because obviously it's just arriving into a digital headset. So, and obviously it's synced perfectly because it's with the surtitles. So yeah, on the next screen, I'll just play you a tiny bit. So just to imagine, this is a sample from Tosca. And this third act, it's a very dramatic moment. So Tosca is this great opera singer, and her lover is about to be shot by firing squad. And she's saying to him, it's just going to be a mock execution. You're okay, I've got the piece of paper that says it's going to be fine. They just have to pretend to execute you. So make sure you fall to the floor and make it look real, just like I do on stage. And we as the audience feel this sense of dread, and the music has this sense of dread, and it's quite quiet, the music, but very pulsing. But if you were there and you were just listening to the music and hearing her singing a few bits in Italian, you wouldn't know really what's going on if you can't see it. In this production, it's quite a dark scene as well. So I'll play you a tiny clip of my audio description, and hopefully it gives you a flavour of how much some audio description can really help. I hope this works.
The jailer steps forward. It's time. Remember, fall at the first shot. Don't get up till I call. Fall properly, just like Tosca on stage. The soldier marches in and grabs him roughly. Tusker lets go. He takes him over to one of the posts. 5 soldiers march in slowly from the left, legs raising and falling with the rhythm, followed by the judge. The soldier holds out a blindfold. Mario refuses.
Sorry, it's very embarrassing listening to your own voice. Anyway, I hope I gave you a flavour of how that can just make it intelligible for people. Moving on to another screen, just about hearing enhancement systems. There's a lot of progress in this area and lots of things around, but currently it's a bit like this old VHS Betamax. A lot of theatres, I think, are thinking to wait to see what the big thing is, because these are big budget items. But the big thing everyone's really waiting for is Auracast. So the original old style for a lot of theatres for hearing enhancement straight to your hearing aid was a loop system, but that involves laying copper cable under floors and everything on each floor of your theatre. They're hard to install, hard to maintain, and more so these days, people aren't getting the telecoil enabled in their hearing aid. You probably still can with most of them, but it doesn't always work so great. And a lot of people are saying, well, Bluetooth's great. You know, my hearing aid works with my phone and my TV, but that's a one-to-one connection and quite energy heavy. But there's been a new thing developed by Bluetooth, and it's low energy Bluetooth, and it's a broadcast version, so it's called Auracast. And it really is the future. But this catch-up thing is going to take time because the NHS still currently only issue hearing aids that don't have Auracast. So only expensive ones from your audiologist are there. But anyway, it's happening, and the National have just installed it. And I'm part of a working group with the Association of Sound Designers, and we're going to go and have a listen to it. So even if you have a hearing aid that doesn't have Auracast enabled, you can pick up a headset when you're there, or some kind of thing that I think connects with your hearing aid, and see how it works. But one of the interesting things about sound enhancement that we talked about in the sound design group was that it's this age-old thing that sound people always know. It's garbage in, garbage out. If you haven't close mic'd what's on the stage and mixed it beautifully to feed into that system, it's still not going to be good in people's ears, even though it'll be slightly louder. So there's a real impetus really to tell the theatres themselves, make sure you're treating these access services with respect. Think about the sound that you're putting in, that you're mixing. There's issues with things that don't use close miking, like opera, for example, but you know, you need to tackle those things. You can't just stick one microphone there and then expect it's going to be any good for people. People expect more these days and deserve it. So that's my screen on hearing enhancement. And then my last one, it's just really to say, I think as we all know, the heart of accessibility or what you can do towards accessibility that doesn't even cost much is communication. And I'm always talking about this to theatres when I go and talk to them. And just to show that picture is, it shows a touch door on the stage where people are getting to feel a kimono from Madame Butterfly close up. And these are kimonos from Japan. And the stage management team love giving touch tours. They love talking about everything about the production. So it's a really nice, it's just, they're really great events. And that's part of that communication. And I always say to theatres, you know, invite your audience, make sure you're reaching them, get it early on in the brochure, get the logos there, the AD, the BSL, etc. But also spread the word to their networks in plenty of time so they can plan their cultural spend. Let them know what to expect. That's always a big thing. If you do have access needs, you need to know a lot of stuff maybe ahead of time. Provide it in different formats, large print, audio programs, visual stories. These are all things that can be done at very low cost. Training of box office and front of house staff, I mean, it's a given. The tricky thing is, and I see this so much, is those jobs have fast turnover, but you need to make sure that your new recruits are trained in all those things. They know what access services you do. They know the discounts available. They're helpful, they're warm and welcoming, and it makes the most amazing amount of difference. And then finally, ask for feedback, but act on it. I get so frustrated when theatres have done, you know, focus groups, etc., and they've found lots of really good information, but then they haven't done it. And they kind of always plead money, and I know that's always an issue. So I suppose my final word there is accessibility is communication. So that's all from me, really. So in my final slide, I'm just saying, let me know what you think. Ask me any questions, but also tell me about experiences you may have had where you may have accessed services, and maybe we can all learn. But anyway, thank you very much for listening. I forgot to mention, actually, I do have a podcast, Making the Arts Accessible, so do feel free to look that up.
Thank you, Alice. That was amazing. That was really, really interesting. Does anyone have any questions, comments, thoughts, feedback in the room or anyone online? There was so much information there. It was amazing. I have a thought while everyone is pondering all the amazing things that Alice has been talking about. We're talking a lot about quite big playhouses here. And you were talking quite specifically about existing repertoire. And I was thinking about living composers and playwrights and sound engineers and stage managers and everyone who goes into that process. There's quite a lot of opportunity to integrate these access requirements and access bespoke services and things. There's a way to artistically add them into production. I might be putting you on the spot a little bit here, but do you have any advice for these living artists and what they can do?
Well, no, you're so right. I can't believe I didn't really think of that, but so many companies are doing that all the time. And the most simple thing is, say if you're doing a play for children and you're writing it, instead of having one character hand something to another and say, oh, pass me that or something, you say what the thing is, pass me that hat. You can put all the audio description in the script, particularly, say, for visually impaired people. And apparently, when Amy Leach did Macbeth, she added in lines. She added in Shakespearean-y language to make it clearer. Because a lot of times when people do Shakespeare, they take out lots of this stuff because he was a natural audio describer. Every time someone comes on the stage, they go, oh, look, here comes Antonio. Because back in the day, it was all candlelit, so you couldn't really see who was coming on and off. So a lot of it was audio described. That gets stripped out by modern directors. She put it all back in. So yeah, you can do what you can, do what you like. Look up. There are lots of resources out there. Grey Eye Theatre have done so many kind of like information packs, etc., about how you can help make your work accessible. But it's not rocket science, is it? You can just think to yourself, you can just think, right, we've written this play. Perhaps if I just think about this scene without looking, does it make any sense? Could I make it make sense so someone doesn't need a headset? And then just do the work, just make it part of your artistic practice. And luckily, I'm finding that lots of younger theatre makers are doing it. They're to them, it's second nature. They wouldn't dream of, not thinking about those aspects. You can't always do everything, and that's absolutely fine. But you've got to, just do the research. Yeah, thank you.
Great. Do we have any other questions, thoughts online or in the room? Does anyone have any personal experiences or recommendations or questions? I can keep talking as well. We're talking about quite big organisations here, including like the Royal Opera House and Leeds, and you were mentioning a bit about how they gather feedback and what they do with it, and I think that's so important, is to include the voices of the communities that are accessing it. How do you think these large organisations should be including those voices?
Well, yeah, the large ones in particular, I think, find it hard sometimes to get all the aspects in place. Because, in fact, going back to the screen about communication, I meant to say that internally people have to make sure all the departments are communicating. Because smaller theatre companies do stuff really well because they will know what everyone's doing. Bigger ones don't. I think you can do a lot. You know which your access customers are often through your box office system. You can ask for them to come in and perhaps invite them to a dress rehearsal or a first night or something and give them free tickets, or ask them what they want. Do you want to be paid for your time to give us this feedback, or do you want free tickets? Make them feel special, build that relationship, and then say, please tell us what you did or didn't like about it, but then act on it. That's the thing. And just try and be more accessible as companies as well. If you've got a more diverse and workforce, you'll be making the stuff in the right way. So that's a key thing as well to look into.
Yes, I think we can all in the room agree with that, definitely. Thank you so much, Alice. Do you want to talk a bit about your podcast? Do you want to
Am I really quick? Have I rattled through it really quick? Well, it's all about making the arts accessible. I was looking for one online and there wasn't one there. And I thought, well, I know how to record audio and edit it, so I'm just going to do it. And I love doing it because obviously I just choose interesting people that I've met through my work and I ask them to tell me all about it. So you'll hear from all sorts of different BSL interpreters, audio describers, people who run front of house teams in theatres. I talked to Tim from Drake, which was how I sort of got to know this organisation. So it's been great fun.
Amazing. Oh, where can we find it?
Everywhere on Making the Arts Accessible. It's on the Apple, Spotify stuff, I think.
Amazing. Okay, thank you so much. Can we have another round of applause for Alice Gilmour, please? Thank you, Alice.
Thank you very much.
Break. Thank you all so much for your attention to these amazing speakers. When we come back, please stick around and get excited for an amazing performance by the wonderful Leah Mice. And in the break, there are refreshments outside, so please get a drink and some snacks. On the tables in front of you, there are some accessible musical instruments. Please have a play, this is why they're there. For everyone watching online, thank you so much for sticking with us. Please take a break, get a drink, get some tea, and rejoin us in about 15 minutes. The chat is still open if you have any additional thoughts that you want to add, and we can hopefully get to them soon. Thank you, see you in a bit. What a way to end an amazing evening. Thank you all so much for coming. I think we have a QR code to put up on the screen, which is pending. The QR code that will appear on the screen, there it is, nice and big. This is for our evaluation and feedback. It's really, really important to us, firstly, to get your feedback so that we can keep improving the events. So if you have positive feedback, that's great. If you have constructive feedback, that's great. It could be a big thing, a medium thing, a little thing. Also, it's really, really important that we get it to keep the events going, because we report back to our funders who make sure that we can do events like this. So we would love your thoughts. You don't need to do it right now, but if you get it up, bookmark it on your phone. Everyone at home, if you've had a great time or you have any advice or thoughts to leave us, please do. We put community at the heart of everything we do, and so if you have any suggestions, we would love to hear them. And thank you so much to our speakers and our performer, Stuart, Alice and Leah. It's been an amazing evening. Thank you so much to our lovely BSL interpreters and our captioner, all my colleagues at Drake Music and the team at Rich Mix. We do these events every other month, so there will be another event in January the 26th. Yes, so join us back here or online on January 26th. Programme to be announced, very exciting. Thank you so much for coming. Have a safe journey home, and we'll see you all very soon.